and welcome. We are talking about setbacks. And if you felt like really crappy, guilt, shame, all that comes, disappointment, anger, anxiety, you name it, all the things you felt and you thought you're the only one feeling like that, guess what? You're not. Setbacks are hard to overcome. It's not that easy with, oh, just do this strategy, that strategy, whatever. You have to really first acknowledge those emotions, very important. And we all have them because it's related to our brain functions. And the key is you have to first acknowledge that, work with that, and then you can implement the strategy. So we will talk about the emotional part of this and the psychology and the brain function, but also some strategies and frameworks on how to address and overcome setbacks. Welcome. I'm Heike Fallon. I'm a certified personal performance coach, and I help my clients with their self-leadership because the better they lead themselves, the better you lead others.
Good morning. I'm Shannon Passalacqua, and I too am a high performance coach, and I help women heal after miscarriages. And I love this topic because I think everybody has setbacks, but everyone talks about the strategies of how to get past the setbacks or overcome the setbacks without acknowledging the first steps, which is it's normal, and to acknowledge that it happens. And I think this is why it's so important to have a coach or to have a therapist or to have both, because they're going to help you with this aspect of setbacks. You know, it's not going to be just strategies. It's going to be talking about why it happened and acknowledging that it does happen. And I think that's where we drop the ball a lot of times in society is it does happen. It happens to everyone.
It will happen for sure.
And it's okay.
Yep. Well, the fact is there is different, like setbacks are any obstacles, challenges, anything that maybe not going straight, because your journey never goes straight. It always comes with all these little extra curveballs.
Bumps in the road.
Bumps in the road. But there can be external factors. So things that are happening, but it can't, like things like events that are happening or other people or deadlines or things that got changed. We don't know what it is, right? But it can be, and sometimes we do. There are external factors from the outside, and then there's internal factors, which would be your own expectations or your own goal setting or whatever comes from within, right? And then, of course, there's these super unexpected things that can be very hard. Like in your case, I know your clients go through miscarriages. That was not, not in the plans, right? You get your yoo-hoo, I'm pregnant, and you assume it goes well, and you don't assume a miscarriage can happen. But the key is setbacks happen, and they happen to everybody. It's a matter of how do we cope with it, and also acknowledge first our emotions with it, because nobody, like you said, nobody shares those emotions and how hard it is to get over it, and that it doesn't happen overnight, that we just switch some switch and go, woohoo, now we're gonna put the strategy in place and go. Oftentimes it's anger, frustration, disappointment. It can be anxiety, and that's
I find there's a lot of shame. When you get set back, there's a lot of shame and blame of, blaming yourself and shaming yourself with, why can't I do this when I see everyone else doing it? Or why can't I get over this hurdle quicker? And then that can easily go into a shame spiral, and you just kind of go like further down that rabbit hole, that spiral of, why, and blaming yourself. And then you have a further, it's harder to get out of that hole. And so it's acknowledging that happens and being mindful that it happens.
Yeah.
And that you're in the middle of it and finding someone to talk to about it.
Yeah. And with that said, as I always like to throw in a little bit of science.
Brain science.
Brain science. We can't change or disconnect the physical from the mental component, from the emotional component. This is all one happening. The system is trying to come back to like a level. So when things happen, right, we have a certain state, and when things happen that are unexpected or not unexpected, things get out of whack. And I'm talking about, it can be hormones, it can be neurochemicals, the stress response by the brain to whatever is happening. So it can be showing up in various different forms, and the system tries to get back at a homeostasis. So meaning that it's trying to regulate itself back to dealing with the situation. And because of whatever happened internally, externally, and that sometimes takes time, depending on how intense it is and how we deal with it. So how we think and how we recognize the emotions matters in addressing the situation.
Yeah, I think getting back to baseline, right? And acknowledging. And that goes back to, I always say with grief, it's acknowledging and validating what people are going through and letting them talk about it and tell their story. It's very similar when you get thrown off and when you get off track. It's the same thing, acknowledging it, validating it, and then moving into steps. But you can't move right into steps, like next steps,
100%.
until you acknowledge it.
100%. First step is taking a short step back, acknowledging how you feel, and also most of the time in those situations, calming the nervous system down, because when there is a setback, usually it's a threat response by the brain. So it's a heightened sympathetic system, heightened levels of cortisol. And that's also, cortisol is good, but if it's too much, it can be a cause of feeling very stressed. And then again, once the mind adds to it with more negative thinking, that adds more cortisol releases. And first thing is to reset and get the nervous system back to a state where you can actually think. So oftentimes,
so then that's the question. How do you get back to lowering the cortisol and resetting that?
So one thing, it all depends on, of course, everybody's different, but I usually with my clients start first calming down the nervous system through activating the vagus nerve. And there's so many different exercises that can be done, from breathing exercises, tongue exercises, even gargling can help calm the nervous system down. It can be meditation, it can be progressive relaxation. There's so many things that can calm your nervous system down. So I usually recommend know what your system responds best to. If you don't know, try out different things. Even a hot bath or going for a walk can calm your nervous system down. So
I tried the other night because I was stressed. I tried tapping.
Great strategy.
It was super easy. I just looked up on YouTube. I was like tapping for whatever it was I was, and they have different videos for tapping. And, it's just like tapping different areas of your body. And honest to God, I felt better within minutes.
Yeah, no,
and it just calmed my whole nervous system. And then I fell asleep.
Oh, there you go. Sleep is another very important component there, but in the tapping is a great one. There's great apps too that I use and my clients use. So tapping is a great strategy too. But in any case, calming the nervous system down first, stopping that overly release of cortisol, the stress response, and figuring out what works for you. Not everybody responds the same way. So if you're not sure, try out different things. My website, I do share a couple things, as well as we have other videos where we share different strategies that help calm down the nervous system. And once we've done that, the key thing I think on the next one is really, with a clear mind now, analyzing first what went wrong, not jumping immediately to like, oh, these are my new steps, so this is what I'm going to do now, but actually first analyze. So the second part really is about analyzing now, what happened? Was it in my control? Was it not in my control? Did I, oftentimes if it's, New Year's resolution or other habits that we try to implement, right?
I was just going to say,
our expectations was way out there. Maybe our goals were too big. Maybe our, like I said, expectations of what we can integrate in our daily life did not really match, or we didn't line it up very well with our values, or didn't really know our why. So analyzing what it is, because oftentimes and that happens all the time to me too, I'm by all means, but like we set a goal and we think we want to do it, particularly when it comes down to health, but we didn't really want it. We just kind of jump on the bandwagon as everybody else, because you're supposed to work out, you're supposed to lose weight if you're overweight, or you're supposed to eat healthy. And if you have not connected with your why,
well, that's what I was going to say is, and we're recording this right after the new year, so I think New Year's resolutions are on our mind. But I think if you're going in, it's like New Year's resolutions, and you have to look at it like, okay, how come I haven't succeeded with my New Year's resolutions in the past? It's similar to that of not just starting a New Year's resolution, not just starting a new goal of, okay, what got in the way last time?
Yep.
What got in the way and how can I fix that? And again, like you just said, is that actually something I want? And if it's not actually something you want, then it's going to be really difficult to jump back on. So figuring out what got in the way and then coming up with ways to work around that, right? Like, okay, well, I was trying to work out in the morning and I was too busy in the morning or whatever, figure out, okay, well, maybe it's better for me to do it in the afternoon or in the evening, whatever it is, and figure that out. And then also figure out like, okay, why do I want this? Is this something I want? Because I think oftentimes we are sold this idea of, well, this is what I'm supposed to want and this is what I'm supposed to do. And it's not actually what I actually really want.
Yep.
So
and then having the courage to drop it.
Yeah, like
drop it.
That's not actually what I want to do.
It's okay.
I want to do it like this. I mean, people say go work out or, go for a run or whatever. I don't want to. Maybe I want to go play pickleball, or maybe I want to go do it in a different way where I go dance or whatever. Find the way that works for you, not for what society is telling you works for you.
Yep. So I think that is a big one, to double check with your why and have the courage to maybe ditch whatever your goal was. Maybe that's not really the right goal for you. I think that is a tough one there. But once you get over that, then once you analyze it, found the obstacles, then figuring out a new goal or tweak the goal that you have. And oftentimes it's breaking down the goal maybe more to smaller goals. And here's a cool part about that. Now, we said in the first one, right, we kind of calmed the nervous system down, right? So the threat response is gone. When you start analyzing, you're utilizing more your frontal cortex on the thinking and analyzing. Now you're actually setting the goals. Here's a cool part, and we've talked about that. When we set goals and look forward and we're excited again about moving forward and getting over this setback, there's a dopamine release. And the dopamine release makes us definitely feel better. That's why it's called the feel-good hormone. And there's other chemical releases as well. But we can utilize by setting the goals and moving forward. And I want to throw in there too, which I think not highlighted strong enough. I think it's really important when we look at the obstacles before we set the goals to also possibly address our mindset. How are we looking at that failure or the setback? In what way? Like as with that emotions of punishment or shame or whatever we had before, to shift it into more like a learning experience and shifting out of that guilt, out of that shame mode. So that is actually a step that should come in between.
Well, and I think making when you're making the goal, make smaller goals. Because a lot of times we have this grand idea of, well, I'm just gonna, like right now I'm in school to get my degree to become a therapist. Well, okay, I'm just, my main goal is to become a therapist. Well, I need to have smaller little goals in between, and so that I have dopamine releases in between, right?
100%.
So like finishing a paper or, reading a chapter and learning how to celebrate those small steps towards the big goal. So if it's to work out or to go on a walk every day, the small steps you take to get there, not just like the big overarching goal, but the small steps. Hey, I went on a walk today, but it was only around the block. That's fine.
Yeah. And
You
that's the
promised
thing.
yourself you'd go on a walk every day and you did.
Yes. And that comes also, we're also, I think, again, the really paying attention to our mindset of like, celebrating the small wins along the way. But once we've set the new goal, like it might be, hey, just getting out there at least 5 minutes, not making it too big, but smaller, possibly smaller goal or a better fitting goal, then figuring out the next best step to take action and figuring out what is sustainable,
Mm-hmm.
what action is actually sustainable, because that is really oftentimes what happens is we have great expectations, and even if we cut the goal maybe smaller, we still the action step that we need to get to reach the goal might not fit in our day.
Right.
Our
Right.
day might just not be suited for it because of other roles we have, either as a parent or business owner or whatever we have going on. So I've learned a little bit to the hard way to kind of add buffer times and
Yeah.
making sure that whenever I'm setting a goal, I'm adding another week
Yeah.
or some buffer, because I know I'm easily fall back into expecting then that I finished that and it wasn't really realistic. And then you're starting again with feeling crappy about yourself that you weren't accomplishing that. And then you have to start all over again.
Right. Right. And I think it's important to say, like, when you're working towards a goal, you're gonna fall off.
Oh, totally.
And that's absolutely normal. Um, I've said, you see all these influencers on social media or, friends who are posting things or whatever, and everything looks like it's all linear and everyone looks like they don't have setbacks and everything just goes perfectly. And it's not. That is fake. It is absolutely normal to fall off the wagon. It is absolutely normal to have a setback. It's absolutely normal to not work out one day and to get back on.
7 times, I think, is the statistics of how often we have to restart before making a habit really stick. 7 times failing to actually implement it. And
Yeah, so give yourself grace.
yes, and it's
so hard
not,
on ourselves.
and the point is the failing isn't failure. It's part of the process of learning and how the brain figures out how to adapt to what you're doing. So, because it just hardly ever works on the first try.
Yeah, and
unless somebody has some super strong why.
or some crazy ambitions. I don't know, but for us normal folk, what I have found helpful, and I know we say this all the time, but I've started doing it again because this is my New Year's resolution, is to journal more. Guess what? I didn't journal this morning. Yeah, I didn't journal this morning because I was in a rush. I'll try to journal later. But when I was journaling before the new year started, I was journaling about why I wanted to journal. And then I journaled about, like, okay, what are the goals I want to accomplish this year and why? And not just, okay, these are the things I want to do, but why, and what am I going to do when I fail?
Yeah.
And when I do fail, going back and recognizing, okay, so what happened? Da, 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 da. Like,
I love this. I love this because it's very important because we do need these setbacks, actually. We need the setbacks in order to grow, in order for the brain to problem solve and figure things out. We need these challenges and setbacks, even when they're uncomfortable.
yeah, they suck.
Because
I don't like it.
but they're part of the growth of learning and part of the way the brain functions, because every time there's a setback, every time we're challenged, it creates new neural connections. And so it's actually good for our brain health, as long as these setbacks, of course, aren't too intense, or if they're very intense, absolutely get help and to figure out how to cope with the setbacks faster, depending on what it is. So it is very important for the cognitive flexibility, like you said, figuring out ahead of time, like, what do I do in the when something happens, and how do I figure it out? What will I do? But it's also a huge part of building better resilience, and it's a skill that we can get better at. So
I like that frame of mind, because I think when it does happen, it's good to remember that this is good for my brain.
Yeah, it is. And it builds resilience. And the more we're aware of it, the more we do. And I love that you journaled about that, because the thinking about it and thinking ahead of that already prepares you differently. And so
Mhm.
now when something happens, you can actually faster shift your mindset and shift in figuring out how to overcome whatever came your way, your obstacle, your challenge, your setback. And you get better at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy,
Yeah.
but
I mean, I still do it. I still shame myself.
oh,
I
totally.
still go into the shame spiral. And then I'm like, yeah.
I'm getting those sometimes to the like, what was I thinking that I expected that I would get that done? Hello?
Yeah. 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 And it's just being able to get out of that shame spiral and that anxiety and possible depression in a quicker
Absolutely.
way. And again, like we've said, is if you're having a hard time getting out of it, or if you're really beating yourself up and you're feeling too overwhelmed or too much anxiety or depression, reach out to a therapist, reach out to a coach, reach out to someone who you can talk to about it, because talking about it and being validated really does help.
Yep, absolutely. And journaling, I want a few strategies really quick too, not to go too deep into them, but journaling is a great one. Gratitude practice is a great one, just
Mm-hmm.
of the chemical releases we get from that. As we said, breathing exercises are fantastic to calm the nervous system down. Anything changing your environment, going out in
Yeah.
nature, great strategy as well. Visualization is a great one.
Mm-hmm.
Visualizing your success. Actually, it's crazy when I was just reading a book about how the brain predicts everything first. So if we're visualizing, we're creating and shifting the prediction, which is really cool and powerful. And I think really, really honing in and being more self-aware of your emotions and where they're coming from and shifting them.
Yeah.
So and there's a
Notice
lot
notice the
there's
thoughts that are coming into your head. It's, being mindful and noticing, okay, are these thoughts serving me?
yeah, yeah. So
And are they real?
we've done an episode on negative thinking and how to shift those and reframe negative thoughts. And I think that's a great one to review if you're struggling with getting out of your own head there. Um, and
We also did uh we did one on New Year's resolutions.
oh, yep, we did that too. So there's some great episodes that we talked about, a lot of the things that relate to this as well. But I think the number one thing that we wanted to get across today is that it's okay to feel miserable and not good about yourself, because that's part of the that comes with it that nobody really talks about. And it's okay to feel like that. It's just about acknowledging these emotions and then figuring out strategies to move forward. But first, you got to calm your nervous system down, get back to a level where you can think straight, to use your frontal
Mm-hmm.
cortex
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to shift your mindset before you set new goals and start taking new actions. So hopefully this was really helpful as far as overcoming setbacks and figuring out strategies to move on, to be more resilient
Mm-hmm.
and
In this next
strong
year.
for the whole year, every year. Awesome, fantastic. If there's any comments, please comment below. You can find Shannon's information in the description, how to reach out to her, as well as mine below in the description. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
All right.
Bye for now.
Bye.